This vacation is already shaping up to not be very vacation. Hello, knitting friends. Welcome back to Maybe a Better One of Knits. I am your host, Kristen, and today we are talking about vacation knits. Specifically, what am I going to pack for my vacation? I will also be announcing the winners of a couple of giveaways, so be sure to stick around for that. All right, guys, I have given up. I cannot do anything with my hair. It is currently a heat index or real feel or whatever you want to call it of 104 degrees or about 40 degrees Celsius. I am in the air conditioning. It doesn't work that well in this particular room. My children are down the hall playing a game of Uno that seems to involve a lot of screaming. A piece of fuzz just fell off the ceiling fan because I'm such a good housekeeper. Anyway, needless to say, I am over summer, but we have a lot of summer left to go. So specifically, we have our annual beach vacation coming up, and I'm trying to figure out what knitting projects I want to pack. I just thought for a quick video this week, we would kind of talk through that together while I share some thoughts on packing for vacation knitting or travel knitting. So we will be gone for a week, and that includes a 7-ish hour drive, depending on traffic, there and back. Generally speaking, for my vacation, I like to pack 3 projects. Perhaps a little ambitious, but I like to have options. So in general, I like to cast on a new project, either like right before or in the car as we drive there. I like to bring a WIP that is not too close to finishing so I can work on it throughout the week. And then I like to bring like a smaller project that's a little bit more portable and or is a project that is relatively mindless. So now I'm not flying, so I don't have to worry about getting needles through airport security or anything like that, which is good. I, generally speaking, can just pack up my needle case so that I have everything that I might need. That part is not a problem. Really, it's just deciding what kind of projects I want to bring with me. So let's take a look at a few ideas. I have 2 WIPs that are really close to being finished. I'll be talking about them next week in the podcast. So those are definitely not an option for this. I'm hoping to have them done next week for the podcast. So we don't have to worry about those. But I have some hybriding WIPs that might be some good candidates. I have some relatively newer cast-on WIPs, maybe, maybe not. And then I have a couple of options for a new cast-on. In terms of some older WIPs that are kind of mindless and might be a good candidate, one is my Winnie top. This has been on hold because I need more yarn. I am going to run out of yarn. However, I am not going to run out of yarn until closer to the end. So I have finished the back yoke. I am working this in Magpie Fibers Swanky DK in the colorway Mesa. I've done the back, I have done the left front and most of the right front. And I do have another skein of yarn. So one idea is going to be to maybe finish up, wind up that yarn, finish up this front, go ahead and join in the round, and then I've got a really mindless, just stockinette in the round body. So as I said, I'm going to run out of yarn for this because there's a lace trim that has worked all over it, but I'm not going to run out of yarn for a while. I still have a whole skein of yarn to get through, so I wouldn't have to. So the Swanky DK is, how many yards is this? 250 yards. So that should be plenty to get through probably most of the body. So it's not like I would have to run up to Magpie Fibers and grab another skein now. That could still put that off. So this is definitely a good candidate, something really mindless. It is just a t-shirt, so it's not super heavy. It is wool though. So that's a maybe. And then another whip I have is this has also been on hold. This is come on, it's the first petite knit pattern I've ever done, and I cannot remember what it's called. This is my Lulu slipover. So this again, I have done the back. And as you can see, it is almost entirely stockinette. It has it's gonna have a split body, so there's no joining in the round here. Next part is picking up along the shoulders and starting to work the front. And again, lots of stockinette. Does have some double knit trim, but at this point, it's just kind of a mindless stockinette. I have no worries about running out of the yarn. However, the yarn I'm using for this, it's the Sanisgarn, not the soft one. Peer Gynt. It's the Peer Gynt. It is not a super soft yarn. It is a 100% wool. It is very heavy and woolly. So I'm not sure about that. It is a smaller project. You know, it's a slip over. It's not a full sweater. It is relatively mindless. It is a whip that I could, you know, make some decent progress on while we're at the beach. I don't know about that much woolly wool at the beach in the summertime. So, but that is another option. So that's another whip option. And then the last option I have for sort of a smaller and more mindless project is just these simple socks. This is just a vanilla sock. I just need to, this is the first one. So right now I've finished the foot. I need a leg. That's very simple, would definitely be easy. You know, car knitting, don't really have to pay attention, have plenty of yarn. It's not very exciting though, but we don't have a lap full of hot, heavy wool. It's a fingering weight. It's just a little sock. The other problem is whenever my sister sees me knitting socks, she asks why I haven't knit her knee-high socks yet, which I've started them. I'm just bored with them. I don't know, for whatever reason, I don't have any motivation for them. And obviously she will be on this trip. So, but that is the third option I have for sort of a relatively small, so not a whole sweater, mindless knit. For something that is a little bit more involved, maybe, you know, simple and mindless for maybe car knitting, beach knitting, poolside knitting, but there's other times of the day, maybe I'll be inside, maybe I'll have some brain space for something a little more involved. I will, you know, if I'm like at the pool, so we always rent a house with a pool because my children don't actually like the beach. But if I'm at the pool or the beach, I want, you know, one ball of yarn, one small project, but maybe, you know, I'm inside, I can deal with something that has some charts or, you know, something a little more involved. So for that, I have a couple of options. The first one would be my Vare, but I'm pretty much going to nix this one right away because I need all these many colors of yarn. I don't want to have to pack a bunch of yarn for the beach. I don't want to deal with multiple colors. You know, we do have sort of a premium on space in our car for a long drive. We bring the dog and we have to bring one of our cats because he gets medicine twice a day. This vacation is already shaping up to not be very vacation-y. So there is sort of a bit of a limit on the free space available in the car, and I don't want to have to bring multiple colors, even if it's, you know, a small, they're Knit Picks palettes, so they're small balls of yarn. I don't want to have to be messing with multiple colors and things. So that I think, The other thing I have is my Isabel top that I have literally just cast on. So this is a summer top. I'll talk about it more next week in the podcast. I am using the Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. Good candidate for the beach, but this project involves a lot of charts. Now I think once a lot of the shaping is done, so we're starting at the back, you know, making that kind of trapezoid for the back and then shaping the armholes, then pick up the fronts. I think once a lot of that shaping is done and we get to the body, the stitch patterns will be pretty straightforward and I probably won't need the charts, but that's a long way away. I really just started. So I'm not sure about that. It is light, it's a light yarn, it's portable, but the charts are giving me pause. Not sure about this one. I really do want to get this done for the summer though. So that's a maybe. Another option I have, which again, I will be talking about this more next week and getting into the details, but I have started a third and hopefully final project with the beautiful Pearl Soho Santolina that I have. This is actually going well, and I am getting close to joining this in the round for the body, and I've already memorized the stitch patterns. So I'm kind of leaning toward this as another project to bring because it is, a little bit more involved than a simple stockinette, but I do already have it relatively memorized. It is a nice lightweight yarn. The problem is I still need to frog and wash and recake the rest of the yarn. So a couple podcast episodes back, I talked about this, but this was my Penelope top that for whatever reason, even though as far as I can tell, I have gauge, it's coming out absolutely enormous. I have already redone armhole trim twice and I am over it. So this is again, the Pearl Soho Santolina. The colorway is called Agave. It's beautiful, green agave, I think. This is what I'm using for that new project, but I have to rip it all out and do some work first. It's been in this form for at least a month, so I do think I should probably wash it. And if it was something that had been like this for just like a couple of days, I would probably cake it up directly from here, just wind it onto the winder. But I feel like it's going to need a little bit more effort than that, which means I'm going to have to wrap it around the nitty knotty to get it in a skein or hank or whatever you want to call it, and then at least steam it, if not wash it, and then recake it in order to have the yarn for that project. And I would have to do all that before we leave. We do have a busy weekend this weekend because it is my husband's 50th birthday. So I'm really kind of leaning toward that project, but I need to do some prep work, and I am rapidly running out of time to do much of anything. So those are the major whips that I have that could be coming along with me. So I've got a couple of options for a small and or mindless project. I got two options for something a little bit more involved. They are both summery, which is generally kind of the way I want to go at the beach. It's once I get back from the beach, I'm all about getting ready for fall, but I do like to sort of keep the summer magic alive at the beach. And then let's talk about a couple of ideas for a new cast on. Right, one possibility for a new cast on is that I was recently accepted into a test knit for Brianna Mason. So this is my swatch. So I am ready to cast on. I could bring this with me to the beach. This is a full sweater. This has a couple of problems. One is that, again, I need to rip out an old sweater. That is my long-suffering Roma cardigan. So I cast this on last year and couldn't figure out why, having just, joined in it, well, not in the round because it's a cardigan, but in one piece for the body, why I was running so low on yarn. And then realized that for reasons unknown to anyone, I had cast on a size 5. I don't know. Like, I went through the whole pattern and highlighted everything for the size 5. I don't know what I was thinking. It's way too big. It's absolutely like, and then even if I wanted it to be this much oversized, I wasn't going to have enough yarn. And so I have decided to reuse this yarn for this test knit. This is the Valley Yarns Westfield, so it is a merino silk yak. I need to rip all this out. I don't need to do it right away. I do have 5, I think, balls that are unused. So I could just take those with me on vacation to do my new cast on, and then, you know, rip this out later. And again, it's the same. It's been like this for a while, so the yarn will need to be kind of washed and prepped before I start using it again. So that's a little bit less of an issue because I do have some. But the other thing is the test knit deadline is pretty short. It's about 8 weeks for the whole sweater, which is definitely doable. But if I wait until the beach to cast on, I'm losing a week and a half. So I don't know. Of course, if I cast on now and then don't take it as a whip to the beach, I'm still losing a week. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do there, but that is one option. Another option is my Haley sweater, which technically I have cast on, but I literally cast on and knit 1 row. So it's basically a new cast on. I think I could sell it to myself as a new cast on. This one is a sweater, but it is a wool cotton yarn, so it's not quite as sort of, you know, it's not like a deep fall project. It's definitely an early fall project. I think the yarn is more cotton than wool. I do this every time. Every time I say it, I think it's more one than the other, and I'm always wrong. Yeah, no, see, I am wrong. It's 70% wool, 30% cotton. But it is a little lighter than a full wool sweater. This is a hefty yarn though. This is the Durham Natura Robinson. It's just lofty. You can see it takes up a fair bit of space. I'm gonna have to bring a few balls with me, so I'm not sure about this one. This one also has a lot of charts, which in general I like. I like having charts much, much better than having to sit and read line by line instructions. It's just traveling with charts is a little bit less fun. But certainly not the end of the world. It wouldn't be like a beach project, but it would definitely be a, you know, back at the beach house evening kind of project. So that's another possibility for a new cast on. Or I could take a look at my queue and see what's in here that I have yarn for. So we have my ginger vest. I do have the yarn for that. It's a vest. So a smaller amount of yarn. It's a relatively straightforward pattern. Doesn't look like it's going to have a lot of like complicated charts. So that is a possibility. I would just have to cake up the yarn. I think those are the only potentials, the Haley and the ginger vest from my Make 12 that I would consider. Another thing I thought about was doing a crochet project. So I do still want to crochet this Magnolia tote bag. But again, I do not want to be bringing multiple colors of yarn. You know, this is all granny squares. It's just, and they're relatively small granny squares. I don't think this is a great travel project. I really don't think right now I want to cast on anything new for summer because, again, by the time I get back from the beach, I'm already sick of summer, but I'm really sick of summer. And then by the time I would finish anything that I cast on, summer would be really kind of winding down. So I definitely don't think a summery project is what I want for my new cast on. I could cast on a new pair of socks that are maybe a little bit more involved than the plain vanilla socks. So specifically, I was looking at these Clog Socks Light, which is a pattern by Summer Lee. These are just a little bit more interesting than a plain sock. They, you know, you can use multiple colors and scraps. You certainly don't have to. You could do them all in one color, although I do like them with the different colors, but bringing, you know, a little bit of fingering weight scrap yarn, not a huge deal. So that's a possibility. The other thing I was thinking about is I got the yarn for the Grammar CT, which is a pattern by Tori Yu. But again, this is 2 colors. I don't really want to have to deal with that on the trip. It's just too much to juggle. So I don't think that is where I am leaning. And then the other possibility I was thinking of is bringing something that maybe I might want to do for Christmas gift giving. I haven't thought a ton about this, but something like a hat or a hood perhaps might be a good option. And I do have some yarn in my stash that might work for those. So one project that I was looking at is the Lena Hooded Cowl. This is a pattern by Irene Lynn. Looks relatively straightforward. It's pretty small. It calls for holding a lace plus a worsted weight together to get a bulky weight. I don't know if I would call that a bulky weight. It uses, let's see, 268 to 328 yards. So I definitely think I could find something in here in my stash for that. You know, it's not like multicolored or anything. It's relatively small. This might, I think, be a fun project. This might be something that I would think about giving to my sister for Christmas. I kind of like that idea. That I might have to play around with a little bit more in my stash and look and see what I've got. I do have this yarn that I got on Amazon when I did my experiment on trying to buy yarn on Amazon. And this is a bulky weight, but I do not think I have enough of this. 82 yards, and I have like 3 of these. So I have 240 yards, and it says the minimum is 268. I also have this, which I repurposed earlier this year. This is some city tweed heavy worsted from Knit Picks. I probably have enough of this and might be able to get gauge with this. Let's see, it says 15 stitches over 4 inches in stockinette or 14 stitches in half fisherman's rib on a US 10. So I'm not sure if by itself I may have, I feel like in my closet of doom, I have some silver aloft, or maybe not quite silver, but something like this that might work and bulk that up a little bit. So I'm kind of leaning a little bit toward that. If I'm going to double check the amount of the City Tweed Heavy Worsted that I have, and also see if I've got maybe some lace weight to bulk it up a little bit. But that kind of seems like a good idea to me as a new cast on. It is relatively small. It's not super boring, but it's also not super intricate. You know, a half fisherman's rib, which I love to work with, maybe with a little bit of shaping, but nothing super crazy going on. I don't use US 10 needles a lot, so I know that I have some, but that they're available. They're not in another project. So as far as new cast-ons, I think that might be the way I go. We'll see. All right, so that is where I stand with packing for my vacation knitting. I want to bring 3 projects. I want to have a new cast on. I want to have something that's a little more interesting and involved, and then I want to have something that is pretty mindless. Love to get your feedback. If you were me, what would you pack? I am a very indecisive person, so I love to hear feedback from other folks and your experiences with vacation knitting, what you've packed, how it worked out. Did you actually get anything done? I always pack several projects and rarely get a whole lot of knitting done anyway, but I like to be prepared. All right, and the moment you have been waiting for, some giveaway winners. First, we have the winner of the Knit Picks Lindy Chain yarn, which unfortunately just isn't working for me, but I heard from a lot of you that you love it, so that's great. And I would love to send this unloved Knit Picks Lindy Chain yarn to one of you. So if this is you, please email me at this address, and I will get your yarn in the mail, hopefully before we leave for vacation, but I'm not making any promises. I'm not, like I said, I'm rapidly running out of time to do things before we leave. All of the things happening in July it's been a lot. And then in the video from 2 weeks ago, I offered some skirt and short pattern options for you and promised 3 winners. So if you are one of these people, please email me at this address. The easiest thing to do is for me to send a gift to your Ravelry library. And if that is your choice, be sure to include your Ravelry name when you email me. Otherwise, we can talk about another way for you to perhaps get the pattern if you are not a Ravelry user. All right, that is all I have for you this week. A pretty short and sweet video as I prepare for a house full of guests this weekend. Next week will be the regular monthly podcast episode where we talk about all my whips and finished objects and acquisitions, and I'm gonna hopefully have 2 finished objects to share with you. Hopefully. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. If you enjoyed it or took anything from it, I hope that you will give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. New knitting videos here every Saturday. If you're looking for me on social media, you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Media Peruana, and I will see you soon in another video.